Call of Duty Vanguard in its beta state has some positives, but is held back by many shortcomings and technical issues. While I think Vanguard plays similar to Modern Warfare 2019 in some ways, at the moment the visuals, audio, servers and overall polish are way behind the most recent Call of Duty entry, Black Ops Cold War. In this video I'm going to expand on these issues along with my thoughts on the weapons, maps, pacing and class customization. Let's start with a big issue, the audio. The quality of the audio across both the alpha and beta of Vanguard has been really pretty bad indeed. While some minor improvements have been made to the audio in Champion Hill, such as a reduction to the announcer's volume, there are some considerable audio issues with the main game that need to be addressed. These issues are present in all three of the audio mix settings I tried, which were TV speaker, headphones and home theatre. The overall volume of the game is too low, which meant that I had to turn up the volume of my headphones far beyond my normal volume level that I would normally use for playing Black Ops Cold War. The soundstage is much smaller compared to Cold War. It's like the soundstage has been crushed or closed in. Even on a capable headphone such as the Astro A40s, the dynamic range is smaller than most shooters I've played, so you get a much more claustrophobic sound experience overall. It's quite difficult to pinpoint the location of gunfire, partly due to the tame gun sounds themselves, but also because they are not defined enough in the mix. Players' footsteps are also very quiet, if not silent at times, which means I couldn't rely on sound to determine player position and had to rely much more on on-screen information to play. I sometimes had to check the kill feed in order to confirm kills as the audio feedback isn't sufficient enough all the time. Regardless of which weapon you choose, the weapons all sound muffled, lacking in piercing character, which I would expect most guns in the game to sound like. I reckon this is due to a lack of treble detail for gun sounds overall. While I think it's slightly easier to identify the location of gunfire over the mouse-like player footsteps, I still found it difficult to pinpoint an exact location where gun sounds are coming from. Compare this to Cold War, where I could tell you exactly where players are from halfway across the map. My suggestion to improve the audio in Vanguard would be to make an exact copy of Black Ops Cold War's audio balance and settings, as in my opinion they were absolute perfection, or alternatively I would suggest an increase to the overall game volume, enhance the sound of footsteps by quite a lot, define non-player gunfire more in the mix, decrease the volume of explosions and killstreaks, which take up a lot of space in the soundstage, and improve the gun sounds so that they sound more natural than modelling their sounds after a fancy dressed toy gun as they sound like at the moment. I want to briefly talk about the visual and performance differences between the PlayStation 5 and Series X, Series S and Xbox One versions of the beta. None of the versions of the beta look brilliant, I have to say. The alpha has had issues with map visibility and distinguishing players from the environment was difficult, so Sledgehammer increased the overall exposure of the beta. This has helped to separate players from the environment, but has also created a washed out colour palette for all versions of the game. The PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X version of Vanguard look fine, but are not visually impressive in any facet of graphics, in my opinion. I reckon the PlayStation 5 and Series X versions have a resolution of 1440p to 1620p and seem to lock well to 60 frames per second without any issues. The Series S version is definitely a visual step down from the PlayStation 5 and Series X, and I reckon the resolution here is 1080p with perhaps a few settings turned down. It would be a decent experience considering the reduction in processing power between the two machines, but unfortunately the Series S suffers from more visual glitches and issues than the more capable machines. Please note I have guessed the resolutions as a representation of how I feel the games look, not the actual resolutions. The actual resolutions I will put on screen for you. The Xbox One version is, an experience to say the least. The resolution is most likely 720p, with many visual downgrades noticeable from the PlayStation 5 and Series consoles. Vanguard on Xbox One ends up looking blurry, washed out, and a visually unappealing version of the game on all fronts. The Xbox One version also exhibits the most graphical glitches and issues than any other version I've tried. While the PlayStation 5 and Series consoles seem to lock to 60 frames per second at all times, I definitely don't think it's out of the question for this version to have frame rate drops, even with the reduced settings and resolution. I would ideally suggest avoiding this version of Vanguard if possible. I experienced many technical issues in the beta, ranging from environments flickering or not loading in, not being able to call in certain killstreaks, plus not being able to throw lethal or support equipment. These are not issues I would expect to see in a beta. These seem like pre-alpha issues to me, so not good. The main technical issue as well was the server quality. This is a problem across all versions of the game I tried. In a modern game, I have never experienced servers with such a high amount of packet burst or packet loss, along with high and wildly variable ping, which creates a very jerky experience. I've had more stable experiences using peer-to-peer connections 10 years ago on a PlayStation 3. How can it be that Modern Warfare's servers were absolutely fine at the end of its development, and yet servers in Vanguard seem considerably worse despite using the same engine? Surely you'd copy the code that you know works, right? Let's move on to talk about the weapons in Vanguard. In short, I think Sledgehammer has done a pretty good job with the weapons. The devs haven't put in too many guns, which means that each gun fills a slightly different purpose or playstyle. If you look at the creator class description for each weapon, they are an accurate representation of how that gun behaves, which is pretty cool. With my testing of the game so far, I think weapon balancing is fairly well balanced, although I do think a few guns may require some tweaking. These are the MP40, Thompson, and STG-44. I couldn't say for certain that these weapons are unbalanced or overpowered because I couldn't access all attachments during the beta, but I have my suspicions that these guns may end up that way. Creator class is very familiar in Vanguard to other Call of Duty games. The difference is the number of attachments you can select for each weapon, which is 10 in Vanguard. As always, you have the option to pick a primary weapon. In total, there are 5 assault rifles, 3 submachine guns, 2 shotguns, 3 light machine guns, 1 marksman rifle, and 2 sniper rifles. Players can then select a secondary weapon from 3 pistols, 2 launchers, or a basic knife. 10 attachments can also be applied to secondaries as far as I am aware. There are 3 perks to select, 1 lethal throwable, 1 support equipment, and separate to creator class, 1 field upgrade, which remains the same across all classes until changed. The throwables and support equipment are pretty standard, and I'm happy to say that all perks serve a purpose and none seem to be there for filler. Field upgrades are slightly different to previous Call of Duty games. The options are supply box, armor plates, Goliath, field mic, and dead silence. I only want to talk about 2 field upgrades, the Goliath and dead silence, as the other 3 function as you would expect. The Goliath is a slow and small remote-controlled tank which can be controlled for up to 30 seconds before it detonates, unless the player detonates beforehand. The Goliath is a much slower but more hardy RCXD, so is rather embarrassing to get killed by one. Dead silence is just as annoying in Vanguard as it was back in Modern Warfare. Silences your footsteps and creates faster movement while activated. Given that this game's footsteps are whisper quiet, the only real benefit is the speed increase, but that alone is deadly if activated at the right time. Overall, creator class seems pretty good in Vanguard, but I do wonder about the potential of weapons with all attachments unlocked. Could some of these attachments potentially take a balanced weapon to majorly overpowered? We shall have to wait and see in the final release. The beta offers the usual modes of Team Deathmatch, Domination, Search and Destroy, and Kill Confirmed, along with new mode Patrol. Patrol features a moving capture point which follows a set path around the map. Players must remain in the moving circle to gain points for their team. Patrol, in theory, is a great mode as it is essentially hardpoint but with forced movement, which should eliminate camping. In reality, most matches of Patrol are very one-sided as one team usually has more players bothering with the objective, which pretty much defeats the point in the mode. In the better matches, Patrol is a constant fight over the capture zone with players attacking from all angles. Since the Patrol zone is moving, it allows for so many more options for attacking the capture point than a static capture point allows for. Spawns need a lot of work in Patrol. On several occasions I spawned right next to an enemy, or the entire team spawned right in front of me. So Patrol can be great if all players are fighting over the capture zone and spawns are sorted out before launch. Patrol could be a fantastic game mode both for casual and competitive games in these circumstances. All game modes play as you would expect with 6v6 player counts, but can play rather different with the new pacing options that Vanguard introduces. Pacing is just a singular word for player counts in reality. The changes in pacing change the time to engagements as the maps are unchanged regardless of the player count. There are 3 categories for pacing: Tactical, which is standard 6v6 matches, Assault, which ranges from 20 to 28 player matches, and Blitz, which ranges from 28 to 48 players. In my experience on the 4 beta maps, 6v6 matches felt a little slower than normal Call of Duty. These were low action and felt a little dull since the maps were built to accommodate larger player counts. It took a while to find players basically. The only exception to this was the map Hotel Royale, which I thought was perfectly paced for 6v6. I found that Assault pacing offered the best balance of action while maintaining meaningful gunfights and exchanges over objectives. The increased map size of the beta maps compared to classic COD maps seems to suit a slightly higher player count, so 8 to 10 players per team played similar to 6v6 on Black Ops Cold War. Blitz pacing is best described as mindless carnage. It's great if you don't care about meaningful gunfights but want the rush of taking down lots of players in quick succession. Map design is practically irrelevant in Blitz pacing, as they basically all play the same, i.e. carnage. My main concern is while pacing options offer variety for players, it takes away from the balancing of maps. It's going to be much harder to balance a map for all pacing options rather than focusing on just 6v6. This probably explains why spawns are a mess in all game modes and all player counts at the moment. I also worry, based off the beta maps, that CDL or the competitive play is going to be pretty bad this year. 6v6 pacing is slow in my opinion and will likely lead to dull competitive matches unless the other 12 maps have better things to offer for smaller, more competitive player counts. Moving on to talk about the maps in more detail. There were 4 playable maps in the Vanguard beta: Hotel Royale, Red Star, Garutu, and Eagle's Nest. Hotel Royale was definitely my favourite map in the beta. It played well regardless of the pacing option that I chose, and the map had many open areas that promote varied ranges of gunfights for all types of weapons. The map also features plentiful routes to get around, which works very well at promoting action over camping. Aesthetically, Hotel Royale was also my favourite map. It simply looked the least washed out of all of the maps, so an easy win there. Spawns were bad on this map and do need a lot of work. Red Star was my least favourite map in the beta. Where do I start with this map? It's visually washed out due to the snowy setting and boosted exposure. Map visibility is extremely poor due to this. The map has extremely bad spawns, which means groups of players can spawn in the same area right in front of you. This problem gets even worse the higher the player count. The map doesn't have much flow or predictability, which therefore means that camping is highly rewarded on this map. The whole centre area of the map is barely used and may as well not exist, and could realistically do with a redesign so players could use it more. A bad map, and one I tried to avoid. I have absolutely no idea if I'm pronouncing this map right, but I guess I'm going to go with Garutu. This map can be okay depending on the mode. In modes such as Team Deathmatch or Kill Confirmed, the map can be rather camp friendly due to long sight lines from many areas of the map, which are usually paired with cover close nearby. Domination and Patrol, however, play pretty well on this map, as open areas promote aggressive play on the objective, which cannot be found on any other map in this game in this way. Just a small issue with this map, I found that it is possible to hide in some of the foliage and get free kills. I hope that transparency is increased for these areas to avoid these types of plays from happening. Eagle's Nest is a map that has grown on me the more I've played it. There are few areas on the map where I feel safe, which is great. There are plentiful routes throughout the map and fast engagement times even with low player counts. Objective modes such as Patrol play very well as players can fly out from practically anywhere, which can create a back and forth between teams, which is exactly what I'm looking for in these objective modes. I am happy that the number of killstreaks have been reduced from Black Ops Cold War, but I am unhappy to see that most of them require a low amount of kills and can therefore be achieved with ease. This can lead to matches with almost constant kill streaks going on, which is an absolute nightmare. The vast majority of the kill streaks are not worth talking about, which is great, but there are two which I think need some tweaking. These are the Flamethrower and Dog's kill streak. For achieving a 9 kill streak, players can acquire a hazmat protective suit along with the Flamethrower. The Flamethrower has a moderate damage output but has an extremely long range and large area of effect. Paired this with the protective hazmat suit, players have extremely long longevity, way beyond what they should have. For achieving a 10 kill streak, attack dogs can be called in. The dogs are easy to take down but have a long lunge range and kill in one hit. In matches with particularly bad server issues, which is most matches to be honest, dogs can kill you without the player having any chance to retaliate. I also spotted on some occasions that dogs left me completely alone when they should have been attacking me. Perhaps this is a pathing issue, or maybe I was imagining it. My main unanswered question remains, what are the other 12 maps going to be like? How are they going to play? Besides Hotel Royale, the maps so far are not very entertaining, and I certainly don't look forward to playing any of them. I want to know how competitive play is going to be implemented into Vanguard, along with what weapon restrictions and class restrictions there are going to be. I am aware that some leaks have suggested the competitive mode has already been looked into by the developers, but I don't want to comment on unofficial information. I also wonder a lot about the effect of unlocking all of the attachments for weapons, and could this have a major impact on weapon balancing that could not have been tested in the beta. So this is definitely an area I want to explore more in the full game. Vanguard has many issues that need to be addressed before it's ready for release, and I hope the developers have gained valuable feedback from the beta tests and can turn the game around before launch. I am going to keep my pre-order for Vanguard despite the many issues I have talked about in this video. I can see the potential for a great multiplayer game hidden somewhere in there. Plus I'm also interested to check out the single player campaign and zombies mode when the game launches on November the 5th. Until then, I shall return to the 9.5 out of 10 that is Black Ops Cold War's multiplayer. Thank you for watching.